Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to the Best Overall Show. My name is Jim Vessel. I'm joined once again, and as always, by my lovely co-host, David. David, how are you?
Doing great. How about yourself?
I am very good, actually. I had a very busy work day today, and as we kind of talked in the pre-show, I've had a very kind of exciting, eventful week in my normal real life, which is something that I do actually have. Very excited for today, actually. There's like some pretty juicy, spicy stuff that we want to talk about. Everyone that's tuning in, thank you so much. Brent, how's it going? Let me know guys in chat if you guys are here paying attention. Otherwise, yeah, we'll hopefully kind of get on with the show. So a few quick announcements, guys. I think I've mentioned this 1,000 times, but I'm just gonna make sure everyone knows. Stream schedule for next week will be slightly reduced because I'm off into the bushes as of Friday. And then I get back and I'm basically right off to Charity Hammer. So basically next week's stream schedule is going to be kind of the last streams for a little bit. Basically on the Friday, the 30th, I leave for camping. I get back. This is how fucked my week is. I get back on the 2nd. I fly to Charity Hammer on the 3rd. I'm there till the 9th, and then I'm home for a day, and then I fly to Toronto and Montreal for 5 days. So basically, as after next week, there'll probably be about a 2-week hiatus of streams on the channel. With that said, I will be doing some, hopefully, live streaming from Charity Hammer. And if you guys haven't checked out Charity Hammer, make sure to. It's a really cool event that we do. It's going to bring together about 30 to 40 of the best players in North America, or the ones at least that are available and willing to travel. Because I'm definitely not one of the best. Happening with the Best in Faction guys. You can check out all the details at charityhammer.com. There's information there on how to donate, kind of where all the money goes. Last year we raised $14,000, and this year the goal is to raise $20,000. So there's going to be 3 consecutive streams running. It's going to be over for over 72 hours. There's also a hot wing eating contest, which I have obviously entered because I'm brown, and it would be a shame if I didn't win it because I'm brown, so I gotta beat all the whiteys.
Too, so
huh?
Like, you're Canadian too, so kind of like they kind of cancel each other, I think.
Yeah, but I gotta beat all the. I can't let a bunch of like white folk outdo me in eating hot food. So that'd be a shame. Not that I'm East Indian, because I'm not. I'm Middle Eastern, but still the point stands. The other thing, guys, originally we were scheduled to do an episode of Politics and Plastic tomorrow night, and then I ended up having to switch the schedule around because Wyatt Turk, who is going to be coming on for that episode, is actually at the Lone Star Open, so that'll probably be pushed till potentially next week. I'm not sure exactly what day. I gotta check with him, but yeah. So overall, the stream's just going to be a little bit on a hiatus for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do the hobby stream tomorrow because I have just a super busy weekend, but just want to be honest with you guys. All right, with that said, David, what have you been working on? What's new in life? Tell me everything.
Oh, well, I put in my Instagram story if people wanted me to do a Skatari tutorial on my Skatari conversions. And I got a lot of people in my DMs being like, you need to make this conversion tutorial. So as we speak right now, I'm actually photographing and filing down models for said tutorial. That becomes just like a text-based slideshow that explains it all. But it kind of goes hand in hand with the entire population of AdMech players needing to build more Rangers and more Vanguards. So hey, I'm on the same boat as you guys, just much slower.
So are you going to expect people to convert like the 80 or so of those models that people need for their broken ass AdMech armies?
Not these models. No, they be. Hey man, if you want to, man, hey, props. But I'm gonna do about 30 of these, and then I'm gonna stop because I'm once I get these ones converted, I'll have 18 of them, and I'll probably stop at like 30 because I don't want to do 40 of these. Like I can't. Like I want to work on more weird conversions. I don't want to get stuck on just one unit for 7 months or 8 months.
And any other exciting news? Have you been finished any books recently? Any audiobooks, novels?
I've been reading a lot of books that aren't Warhammer related.
Blasphemy.
Or science fiction related or fantasy related. There's like really uncomfortably sad fiction books.
Oh, great.
But I did get a game of 40K in my first one in Utah.
Oh, really? Where did you play?
I played against an Eldar army.
No, where? Sorry.
What's that?
Where?
Oh, it's this really cool. Okay, so I didn't know the store existed until about 2.5 weeks of me being here. But less than a mile away from my house I'm staying in is called Gajo Games. It is literally like the perfect miniature store. They only sell miniature games. That's it. So like they have like every kind of like paint you could ever want to buy, brushes, basing materials, any miniature game that you can think of that's like pseudo popular. They have the entire range, which is phenomenal. And their entire upstairs is just gaming tables. And they Friday night they game from like 5 to 1 in the morning, and then like people game there like every day, and like every game system, which is really cool. Like there's a massive 30K community. There's like BattleTech. There's Flames of War. There's 40K, Age of Sigmar. Yeah, so it's pretty rad.
That's awesome. I have been actually plugging away still these goddamn Noise Marines. So my goal was to have these done by Charity Hammer and my drop claw, but like more and more as I notice how unmotivated I am to paint them, and as the day to Charity Hammer approaches, I'm feeling less and less optimistic. I think at the minimum I will try to get them based at least, because they're basically 3 colors at this point. If I can finish the silver and base them, they'll basically be 3 colors. But I'm not super excited. You can check out kind of the progress models on my Instagram. But yesterday on my hobby stream, I decided I didn't want to paint Noise Marines for the 16th hobby stream in a row, because I think all my audience is basically sick of doing it. So I decided to convert up an Infernal Master for my Thousand Suns, because, well, just like every Games Workshop box set, I'd imagine that whatever box set Castellan Crow and the Infernal Master come out with is going to be sold out in 6 seconds. I don't even know if I want the box set. I already have almost everything I need for Thousand Suns, and I definitely don't want Grey Knights. So I decided to I recently bought a Thousand Suns Start Collecting, and it comes with an armament in it. So using that, and then I had a whole set of the Exalted Sorcerer sprues for I'm just gonna put this here so you guys can see it, for the Thousand Suns that I've just never used. And then so I converted up this guy here, kind of Exalted Infernal Master, and I basically had some pink horrors from War Master that I basically cut up on the base, and I put them on the base. So because like in the Infernal Master that they show, he's got all the mini screamers and everyone's going nuts over them. So basically I grabbed a bunch of like mini horrors from the War Master kit, demons, and I threw them on his base. So he's, instead of summoning, he's kind of blue tacked on there right now, but that's kind of the model, and I'm actually really happy with how he turned out. Like I love the pose. I gave him the flaming backpack, nice horns, and he's got kind of like the summoning hand, just like the Infernal Master. So really happy with how that model turned out. If you guys want to know exactly how I did it, you can check out my hobby stream yesterday on the YouTube channel. I literally started from sprue. I was like, okay, here's all the sprues, and I literally built it from scratch in about an hour and a half. So if you guys are interested in like what parts I used or kind of how I went about doing it, and you want to do something like that, feel free to do that. I also have a league game right after this podcast. Basically at 6:30, so in about an hour and 15 minutes, I have a league game against Orcs. Probably the last time I'm going to play Old Orcs, and I'm going to be running my Be'lakor for the first time. So not as part of a Legion of Be'lakor, but as part of a just a demon attachment. Yeah. So anyways, that's basically been it. That's as far as I've gone. I haven't gotten any farther in Mortis. I'm still kind of languishing on hour 11, I think. Sorry, about 11 hours left on the audiobook. It's just been tough. It's been tough hobbying right now. Summer has just been so busy and so exciting, and just so many things happening, as I filled you in a little bit on the pre-show. Plus, like, yeah, it's just been really tough. The weather here has been just outrageous in Vancouver. So I've been just trying to like get outside and stay fit and to be social. So I'm actually looking forward to like crappy weather so that I can like stay inside and not and paint more. Yeah. All right. With that said, we had a few bombs drop this week, which I'm actually really excited to talk about. And I guess the first thing I want to talk about, we won't bury the lead, guys. The topic of the show today is Fantasy is Back. So let's talk about Warhammer: The Old World. So
yes,
obviously this is, and I just want to be clear, guys, this is technically a 40K show, but I know for me, Warhammer Fantasy has a very special place in my heart, and you guys will have known that if you listen to the show, because I basically reference it every episode in some manner or another. And I don't know, David, what's your history with Warhammer Fantasy? Did you ever play Fantasy much, or what's your kind of history with that?
You know, it was funny. I liked playing fantasy a lot. The problem was though is that like you had to buy so many models and it was just a lot of work, and I wanted to convert everything, and it's really hard to convert models when you have to put them in formation, until I learned that you can do those like those back you can put the back units, you can do like long rectangular bases where you can put like 5 models in one rank, or you can do unit fillers, which I didn't think about when I was younger. And but I used to love it. I played all through sixth, seventh. I think I started in 5th edition fantasy, and I played till 8th. And I played my first army I ever played was a Bretonnian all peasant army.
Nice. And that was in which? Sorry, which edition?
That was, I think it was 6th edition, because you could do the paladins with the, oh god, the fuck is it called?
The lance formation, like the knights.
No, it didn't have knights in it. Oh, well, I had to have one Knights of the Realm unit. You had to have one. And it was all peasants on horses. But you could run paladins in the one book, and you could give them a virtue that let them be virtue of empathy, was called, where you could put the knights on foot. So I had a bunch of paladins on foot with stupid magical items inside of units of peasants, and then I had Grail the Grail battle pilgrims, and I just ran all on foot and lots of skirmishing bowmen. It was a lot of fun. It lost. If anyone had a single cavalry unit, my army just disappeared because I just get racked. But it was a lot of fun. Then I played Wood Elves for quite a while. I like Wood Elves a lot. And then Sigmar came.
Fantasy was my very first Games Workshop game, and I remember going into Games Workshop in Park Royal in Vancouver, West Vancouver, and I played a demo game of Lizardmen versus Bretonnians in the 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy box set. So that was my introduction to Games Workshop games. I believe that was maybe in 1998. Immediately came back the Sunday. So I went in on like a Tuesday. You play the demo game, and they're like, "Oh, if you really like this, come in for the Sunday. You play the Mega Battle, where they like give you a unit, and you just get to play, right?" So I got to play in the Mega Battle on the Sunday, which was really exciting. And then I was basically hooked from there. And I think the first thing I ever bought was a box of the Chaos Warriors, the 12-man Chaos Warriors, and a paint set. I think those are the first 2 things I bought. And I remember painting them straight on the plastic, straight out of the pot. Like, just disgusting. Now that I think about it. I know. David still paints out of the pot. That's why I had to throw that in there. But yeah, and then off I went. So 5th edition was my first edition. I played colloquially known as Hero Hammer, because I was talking to Tom Layton actually last night's stream, but there was a battle magic set for 5th edition Warhammer, which had like 300 magic cards, like magic item cards. And basically, in later editions of Warhammer, there's a 100-point limit on magic items. So you can only get up to 100 points of items. And I think that you can only have one of each type of item. But in 5th edition, you could have just any 3 items, no points limit. So I used to run a Chaos Lord on an Emperor Dragon, or a Chaos Dragon, so 2-headed dragon. I used to give him of Khorne. So back then, of course, Khorne used to double, Frenzy used to double your attacks instead of giving you +1 attack, like it did in the later editions. And give him the Hydra Sword, which gave him D6 attacks for every attack. Potion of Strength, and I think Enchanted Shield. So he had a 0+ save. He did 14 D6 attacks. That's Strength 8 on the charge. It was awesome. Yeah, we used to just like literally. Okay, you know what my first 1,500-point army was for fantasy? This is literally the whole army: a Chaos Lord on a horse, 5 Chaos Knights, 12 Chaos Warriors, and a Chariot. That was 1,500 points. That's how like insane Chaos used to be, like heavily pointed. And very back then too, like Demons, Beastmen, and Chaos Warriors were all one book. So it was called Realm of Chaos. So it was actually really fun. So I have a lot of really fun memories of fantasy. That was like the edition that really got me into Warhammer. I played through 6th, quit in 7th, and got back in 8th, and obviously the game ended. And we heard about this old world. I think it's almost been like 2 years now. It's been a while since they announced it, and details have been very scant. But finally, there's been lots of speculation, including speculation that I did, including regarding things like scale, whether it's gonna be like round bases with like movement trays, whether it's gonna even use like the current armies. And they came out with a article basically this week, going through some of the kind of core attributes. And I have to say I was very surprised by some of the things that they basically announced. And I guess the first one I want to say that I was very surprised by was that the game is going to be same 28 millimeter scale that it always has. So what were your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that's yeah, are you surprised by that at all?
No, not at all. GW has made, I think, a lot of errors in the past, making games in different scales, like Inquisitor, and
Mhm.
like I feel like War Master and Epic were like games that I think just kind of like flopped because a lot of people I think nowadays want a model that's multifaceted. And I mean, like, granted, there's Titanicus and Aeronautica, yeah, but like they find, I think a lot, most of the time, I think GW knows that like they're gonna get more mileage when they just have models that work through multiple different ranges and kits. Not only that, but like people are gonna buy them because they want to, use their fancy conversion pieces for 40k or Age of
Mhm.
Sigmar, or the fact that like anything that's going to come out of this book is going to be okay in like free guilds, which is like going to
Yeah.
be yeah. So like it just seems like a no-brainer, especially if they don't want to make new models for Age of Sigmar for some of those books,
Mhm.
like like elves or Dwarden or the like free guild men, what they call them nowadays, the Victorian Empire smash them together. Um, like they don't have to make new models because a different model range is covering that, which is under their umbrella. So
Yeah, I guess my thinking was like I guess one of the main complaints, if I had to make any of fantasy, was especially towards the kind of the eighth edition. It was very much a horde edition, so you got extra rank bonus for being you need to be minimum wide, minimum
oh
deep.
yeah,
You're stubborn if you're like a certain size. There's all
yeah,
sorts of like bonuses for having these large blocks, which from on a tabletop from like a thematic look, it looked really cool. But from a painting perspective, when you tell someone that wants to start fantasy that hey, before you get your army going, you have to paint 120 models, right? And
yeah,
that was one of the things I think actually really hurt the game, right? Compared to a game like 40k Age of Sigmar, where it's substantially left. You're talking maybe a third of that for most armies, to a half. So I thought
yeah,
that was something that, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy that it is 28 millimeter scale because I'm up for that challenge. Um,
yeah,
but I was surprised that we saw that because I just assumed that Games Workshop would maybe do something like they did with Titanicus, where it's like maybe 10 or 15 millimeter scale, where they can kind of do like bigger units, almost like you buy like a whole 40-man block, almost like War Master, and that's like the unit. So I was very surprised by that, but pleasantly surprised, right? What's
yeah.
the quote from Star Wars? Yeah, anyways, I don't know it, but anyways, Palpatine says it. Um,
So,
he's
gotcha.
surprised and he's happy. Um, and then the other thing about it that they kind of mentioned is like, and they even called this out in the article. They're like, we want you guys to be able to use your existing armies, which I thought was also interesting because that implies that a lot of the existing armies are going to be still usable in this new edition. So whether it's people with Dan mentioning in chat that he has 300 Skaven models, I don't actually have my Chaos Warrior army now, which I'm really regretting selling. And I sold it for like for the amount of work and conversions and quality of that army, I sold it for a steal. But I just wanted it gone. I basically rebased it on round bases and got rid of it. Now I'm regretting it because I had a lot of limited edition models. But that's okay. I'll start again with the new stuff, and I'll track down some of those old things. And I know the guy that I sold it to, so I can always get the stuff back. But I guess what are your thoughts on them kind of calling out the fact that they're okay with people using all their old stuff? That seems kind of that's very not GW.
I think it's an easy thing for them to say because it's one of those. I mean, think about it. Like every edition, we're like primary Marines, and we're like, don't worry, you can still use your normal Marines. And then the book comes out, and you're like, why did I ever play regular Marines? They fucking suck compared to all the Primaris units. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna say that it's an easy PR thing. You're just like, yeah, guys, like you can use all your old models. Like we don't know if the rules are gonna be good for them, but like you're gonna be able to use them though. Yeah. Don't sell them. Don't burn them, please.
Yeah.
But I guess it's kind of expected though. I mean, it's an easy thing to appease the masses.
The real question I have though is, are we going to see a re-release? Because obviously some of the old kits from Fantasy are still available. Like you can still get under Age of Sigmar if you look at like say you can still get some of the old High Elf kits, Dwarf kits, some of the more modern ones of those. But like obviously Bretonians are no longer available. Tomb Kings are no longer available, and then just a lot of the older kits from Warhammer are not available anymore. So do you think that we're going to see a re-release of those older kits, or do you think we're going to see a kind of refresh with new kits for all the armies?
We're gonna see a refresh probably. Just because the timeline is set like farther back in the fantasy timeline.
Right.
So you're not gonna see Karl Franz shields on things because like there is no Karl Franz.
He
like,
did. He's not here.
Empire. What's that?
I said he's not alive yet.
No, he's not. He's not even a twinkle in his father's eye. He's but it's like I like the fact that Empire is like in the middle of a civil war. The fact that Bretonia is a much different. And when they did one of the first Old World previews, they talked about Bretonia in depth, and I think it's really interesting because like Bretonia is going to have a much different, I feel, appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, because like these are two different kingdoms that are definitely not like as unified. Well, Bretonia probably will be more unified, but I also like in this new one they talked about Kislev a lot because Kislev is like the one like unified kingdom that's of man that's like holding down the fucking fort, you know.
Yeah,
which is,
they got
really
their
cool.
shit together while the Empire squabbles.
Yeah.
The one thing though, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just really excited to see Kislev models because they made Kislev models back in like 7th edition, and they had Kislev
Wing
models
Lancers, and I have some of those old metal models still on the awful horses.
Yeah, the Hussars.
Yeah.
There's a really amazing book actually that Dan Abnett wrote. If you guys ever have time to read it, it's called Riders of the Dead.
Riders of the Dead. Yes, thank you.
Dude,
I read that. It's one of my favorite books. That's an amazing book.
Books I like rant and rave about.
Yeah.
Because like, are they brothers?
I can't remember. I literally have the soft cover from like 2003 maybe when I read it. I didn't used to read a lot of the fantasy novels. I was always more into the 40k lore for some reason. The fantasy novels were always a little bit lame.
Smith did the artwork for it too on the cover.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was interesting though, and I guess the big question is like they're calling it Warhammer the Old World. So are we going to see races? And they've only really they keep showing maps of the Old World, and parts of the Old World. But I'm really curious, like how far out of the Old World are we going to get Dark Elves? Are we going to get High Elves, Lizardmen? Are we going to get Tomb Kings, which are south in the Khemri? I assume we're going to get things like Cathay, because they mentioned Cathay in the Total War, some of the Total War promo materials. We've seen them talk about Cathay, and Kislev obviously is big. So I assume we're going to get Cathay, because that was part of the reason that they actually designed Cathay, I think. I could be wrong. Obviously we'll probably get dwarves, we'll probably get orcs. I'm curious, are we going to get vampire counts? And then if we do we going to see, do you think, and this is a big question, are we going to see any sort of crossover from some of the Age of Sigmar stuff back into fantasy? So for instance, the new zombie kit, the skeleton kit, are those going to be make basically a reverse compatible back into Old World, right? Where you now get like a set of square bases and you throw your skeletons on there, the brand new skeleton models, right? So I'm really curious how all of these two ranges are going to be kind of compatible with each other, because it would be shocking to me if they were like, yeah, for Warhammer Fantasy, here are the old zombies, and here the Age of Sigmar zombies, right? Like that just wouldn't make sense. And it was funny actually, and maybe this is part of the future proofing, but I think I mentioned this to you before or someone else, but the vampire counts range as the grave lords is like the most Warhammer Fantasy range that they've released in a long time. It's very much fits the aesthetic of Warhammer Fantasy. So I could almost see them when they were designing that range of grave lords or grave diggers. I always think gold diggers, but I'm like, no, they're grave diggers, whatever they're called. Soulblight grave lords. That they were like, you know what? As we do the design of this range of Soulblight grave lords, make sure that they're backwards compatible with fantasy. So they didn't go too extreme with things like the Idoneth Deepkin or like the I don't know, the high elf, the new high elves or the whatever. Like a lot of the design language is, especially when you look at the whites, the black knights, the black coach, it's still very Warhammer Fantasy. Those stuff could fit into the Warhammer Fantasy without you thinking at all that it's Age of Sigmar. So I'm really curious if that one range of like vampire counts is almost like a dual range, becomes like a dual range, almost like demons are in like 40k,
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely going to see undead because there's a lot of different fiction. Yeah. I mean, the Karsteins are in the Empire.
Yeah.
Like that'd be really cool. I think that's like kind of when the Blood Knights first happened, because there's like that series, that region of like Templar like knights who end up going vampire rogue. And
Yeah.
then also one of the really things I really liked about Old World was when they showed the new maps, they also said, "Hey, check out the old maps of Fantasy. You can see that there's all these old high elf outposts that are still intact in the Old World maps, but in the Fantasy maps, they're like ruins. So like obviously, like high elves will have a presence in this new edition. I think it's
Yeah.
really cool, like what they're gonna be like. If they're gonna be
Yeah.
more like beavers, or are they gonna be more like how they always have been, or if Ulthuan's even gonna be part of this?
Right, and I'm also even really curious about what they do with certain special characters, because like obviously there's a new Marathi model, right? And she's
Yeah,
like, she's thousands of years old, so she'd very likely make an appearance.
yeah,
Things like there's a new Tyrion model, or sorry, Teclis model, right? So he's alive in that era,
yeah.
but they don't. Those new Age of Sigmar versions don't fit into the old world. So I'm very fascinated by this. The other thing that they did mention is that obviously it's square bases, which I think we all assumed we knew it was going to be square bases, I think, but I think there's a chance in my head. In my head, I was thinking maybe they do something like either like Kings of War does, where it's like regiment bases, where it's like you don't really have individual models, but you just have like blocks. And I actually really like that about Kings of War because it adds a lot of modeling opportunity. So you basically just have, if you guys are not aware, the way Kings of War works, like you buy, say, a 20-man unit, and it's basically like 100 by 100 millimeters, and that's it. And it's just it's just a 100 by 100 millimeter block, and you can put on that 100 millimeter block. The idea is that you can kind of model up to 20 models on that in like various diorama poses. You can do cool different things. And then you don't take models off. You remove blocks, and then blocks kind of accumulate damage, almost like single models, right? So you take like wounds on the big block, and what that does is it stops you from having to rank up 40 goblins, right? Because you just have blocks of kind of these bigger blocks, which I really like about Kings of War. It adds a lot of modeling opportunity, and also it gets around some of the really pains of fantasy, which was trying to rank up. Like I used to have a unit of Empire swordsmen, a unit of 40, and I used to have to number the bases, how they ranked up, because like literally as I built the unit, when there's gray plastic, I had to every one I had to put on the base so it ranked up, and then write the number, and then like literally the unit only literally went together a certain way because they had shields like this and then swords like this. And so, and they're on 25 millimeter or 25 millimeter bases, or maybe even 20 millimeter bases, like they're tiny. And so, for them to get to rank up, you had to literally write the numbers on the bases, which was completely insane. So,
Yeah.
and then the last thing that they did reveal, which I thought was really cool, was that they're actually going to be drawing from 3rd all the way to 8th edition rule set, which I think is really cool. I didn't play 3rd and 4th edition, obviously, but I played all the other editions. I really actually like the battle magic, the spell casting system from 5th edition. There's a lot of fun. And then I know there's lots of rules kind of within all the editions. I'm curious if we do get some things though from like, will we get like things like command points and stratagems? Like that could be really interesting. What do you think?
No.
No, no stratagems, whatever they call them.
It's I like how rank and file is like a very much more like it's very plotting. It's very like strategic, and I feel like when you have like, haha, I played my trap card on you, it's like, oh, good thing I had this response, and you throw on your like instant to like block them or something. But then again, I feel like there are a lot of things like that in fantasy that were like assassins and fanatics, and they just like you're like, ah, well, I came too close to your unit, and all of a sudden you're just like your screening unit of like skirmishers like pop out like 4 like fanatics, and they come like spiraling out of the army. That was a lot of fun though. But like I don't know, I feel like I would really like to see like the game system feel more unique. I feel like Age of Sigmar already have like their stratagems and command points, and 40k does, and like I'd like to see the game system feel a little more unique and more its own than having to borrow upon other mechanics.
Alternating activations is now finally the time.
What's that?
Alternating activations is now finally the time.
Hey, I mean, Lord of the Rings is pretty great. So
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but with that said, I'm excited, and hopefully we get some more news. I just hope that like, I don't know. I hope it's not that far away. I'm hoping maybe it's there by next year. We're looking at a release. I hope it's not like another 2-3 years away.
I'm probably gonna be like 2-3 years away.
I know.
Yeah, it has to be. They just pumped out a new Age of Sigmar edition, I can't see them wanting to put it out in the next year.
Yeah. All right. Next topic, David. There's a bit of a fuss this year. This week. So Games Workshop has updated their intellectual property guidelines. And
Okay.
a big part of that update that has a lot of people kind of twisted in lots of knots is they specifically updated a section of their intellectual property guidelines in relation to fan animations, fan films. So they're still allowing people to essentially make fan art. So you can still draw a picture. You can still write like stories, for instance. You can still do like graphics and stuff as long as it's not monetized. But they are now completely outlawing. They're saying you're not even allowed, even if it's non-monetized, to create animations or videos using Games Workshop intellectual property. Now, I have a lot of mixed thoughts on this, and I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are, and
So
what's your initial thought on this?
my question is that animations and videos that include like say like painting tutorials and battle reports?
No. So it just means like fan made films, like movie animations, things like a Star Days,
okay.
things like there's lots of like anything that's like emotion of Games Workshop. Yeah, you can obviously do all that stuff, but like anything that is like Games Workshop IP, like you couldn't do like a Space Marine animation. You couldn't do things like a Star Days, like that series would not exist in this New World Order. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I know there's been a lot of uproar in the community right now over it. Guys in chat, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I'm really interested to hear what everyone's thoughts are in chat. But what are your thoughts on this? Because I have very mixed feelings on it.
It's like I don't know how draconian they're going to be in their pursuits. I think why they probably did it is because a lot of these different fan films were, like it's not supposed to be for profit, but like the thing is that these people are like, well, it takes a lot of time to create these videos, so here's a Kickstarter to pay me to
or
make
a
this
Patreon,
content.
or you can donate
You know
if
what
you
I'm saying?
want.
It's like it's not for profit, but they're making money creating it for people for free.
Yeah.
And so they're still monetizing it for themselves. They're just getting paid what they're owed
Right.
ahead of time.
Well, or even if you think about like, say, if I put a video on YouTube, of like that gets 2 million views of an animation, and I run ads on that animation, YouTube ads, YouTube pays me money, so I've monetized the video.
Yeah.
So I haven't sold the video; it's free. Anyone can go watch it. I'm not selling the video, right? But its existence generates income for me.
Yeah. I mean, now that GW has a medium where they can host animated series and videos and things, to them, they now feel like their IP is at risk of, like people like just, like now that they have a platform to actually show that stuff off. I think nowadays they're like, well, like why are we not making all the money off of this enterprise? Why are people making money off of like all of our, design work, all of our hard work? I think that's the hard part for me is that like I'd love to live in a world where I'm like, yeah, like totally like let people create all they want. But at the same time, it's like they hire a lot of people, a lot of designers, and they work really hard to create this universe. And it's almost like artistic, like our artistic IP, like, like if say like Microcosm, like I get angry when Spiky Bits takes my shit and they post it and they don't credit me on their website. That makes me angry because it's not theirs, even though it's like technically like I didn't make like Imperial Guardsmen, like that's not me, but it's like I put the work and the time in, and then they take it and they just like blast it, not giving me any credit, and that makes me angry because like they didn't put the work in, like they didn't have to create this concept or whatever.
Right.
As a microcosm, bring it back up though, you have a company that puts all this money in developing lore, developing the characters, developing the models, and it's like you're just taking all that hard work, all that character development, and all those model development, and all the art and lore that's created, and you're just like, oh no, I'm going to make something, and I'm going to make money off of it.
Right.
I mean, I'd love to see more content created, don't get me wrong, but it's like, I also see where GW is coming from, where it's like, dude, like we have a whole entire like factory like pumping out this shit. Like, don't take all this like 40 years of design work and process, and then like milking money out of it when like it's our intellectual property.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, there's a few things I want to kind of like lay out. So first, I think
Yeah.
companies should protect their IP, right? So companies' intellectual property, and for Games Workshop, their company is their intellectual property. Like the Warhammer and Warhammer 40K IPs are that's where their money is. Obviously, they can make models, but like the IP is the golden goose. So definitely, they should protect their IP. Question is, and this is the big thing, does this specific move protect their IP, or was their IP being harmed by the things that were being done? I think that's I would probably lean on the no side. I think if anything, a lot of these fan creators probably help the IP by creating cool hype content. Like when I look at Astartes, I'm like, say if I'm a random guy on YouTube and I watch the Astartes video, I'm like, that's really cool. Where did that come from? Oh, it's from this universe that I've never heard of. Cool. I'm gonna go check it out. Now,
Yeah.
on the third part is, do I think they could have done this in a way where people could still create stuff? I think so. So like if I look at there's like Star Wars does it, Lucasfilm, sorry, and CBS Paramount does it with Star Trek. You can make Star Wars and Star Trek, for instance, fan films, but they have a very, very specific and strict set of rules on like what those have to be and how they're presented. So for instance, and I'll just make it really simple. I'm not a lawyer, but the fact that I can come up with this on the spot is how simple it is. First, you make sure that obviously the content itself can't like, it can't be like porn, it can't be 40K porn, it can't be like something that's going to be racist, right? So there's some certain content guidelines there that it has to follow. Obviously, there needs to be certain disclaimers and stuff on the content to make sure that people are very clear that this is not making Games Workshop. That's the easy part. Now, when it comes to monetization, also, it needs to make sure that the artists that create it can't get any income from it, whether it's through selling it or through just like monetizing advertisements on YouTube channel. They also can't have any sort of like Patreon or any sort of like thing like that where it's like, yeah, you're supporting me making this. They say, look, if you guys are going to do that but use our IP, then you're essentially monetizing our IP, so you can't do that. What that's going to do, right? It'll probably weed out a lot of creators. But for the pure artists that just want to create it for the love of the art, that just want to put it out there for the people to see for free, that's not going to phase them, right? And the other thing is they could even have some sort of submission process where it was like, if you're going to do this kind of stuff, once it's created, before you publish it, you need to email the link to gamesworkshopip.com, whatever, and our team, our like intellectual property team, will review it and approve it and make sure that it's like, that's kosher. And assuming that it is, we won't sue you. So they could have put together. Now it would have been a little more complicated. Maybe it cost them a little bit of money in the end. But I think when you look at like the benefit of the community as a whole, I think it's a better middle ground that they do allow it, but they just put in a very strict set of guidelines and rules and the kind of steps that people have to go through in order to do it. Now, if I'm the like art student who just loves 40K and I'm trying to build my portfolio of animation, and so I want to, instead of having to kind of come up with a brand new like thing, I just want to animate Space Marines and learn how to, do rigging on my animations and do, shading and create 3D models of, 40K stuff as part of my teaching. That shouldn't be something that they go after. On the other hand, if someone is trying to create a 40K fan film to sell it to profit off it, yeah, that's probably kind of against it. And even then, like that's probably like across the line. So maybe they don't allow that. But I think there is a middle ground here that they could have hit. And then the other part that really fucking hurts, and that thing I think makes this whole thing sound really sour, is look, they literally just went and they've built almost their entire Warhammer Plus platform off animators and 3D content artists that went out of their way, like Astartes, like some of these guys. The only reason half of their animators on that team even exist is because they were able to go and create that content that Games Workshop went and snapped up and bought. So they've literally essentially killed that forever, right? And that is a real kind of slimy move as far as I'm concerned. It's like, you guys basically, like, it's not like after they did that, they're like, oh yeah, now that we've done this, let's not allow it. That whole process was all part of one like thing. Like they were like, okay, first step one is we're going to buy up all the content creators. Step two, we're going to outlaw it. It wasn't like those are two separate things. They thought of this kind of like scheme, I guess, all at once, right? And it was like phase one, contact the content creators, get them on board. If they're not on board, cease and desist them out of the wazoo. And then the ones that are on board will basically take their content, because if we don't, if they don't give it to us, we're going to sue them, or they're not going to be able to show it anyways. So there's like no downside for us. And I would bet you some of those content creators that they approached for animations probably did turn them down, and they were like, look, here's your ultimatum. You either join us or we destroy you. Like that there wasn't like this, they like to make it seem like it was very friendly, and maybe for some of them it was originally. But I bet you if you push back a bit against them, they probably come at you with their corporate. And here's the thing. We know Games Workshop is a very litigious company. People are saying, well, are they really going to go after people? Guys, Chapter House, the cease and desist, Games Workshop loves them. They release more cease and desist than they do models a year. So like, we know that Games Workshop will go after content creators. They do it all the time, especially now they're starting to go over to like 3D model, people that do like 3D printing. We saw the whole Chapter House thing. They sued them into the ground. There's been lots of past, I guess, like examples of Games Workshop being aggressive with their IP, and they are very aggressive. That's actually part of their stockholder statements, is how strongly they go after people to protect their IP. So anyone saying like, it's in there, but it's not really going to get enforced, I don't believe you. They're going to come after you with their army of lawyers. And here's someone posted on Twitter the other day, and I laughed at them. It was like one of the creators basically saying, oh, like, I'm really sad that Games Workshop did this, and then someone tweeted, hey, well, a lot of the community team follows you on Twitter, so like, I don't even think they would do that to you. Like, they like your work. I'm like, dude, do you think the fucking Games Workshop army of lawyers is going to call up like Nick Baton and be like, yo, this guy that you follow, is he legit? Should we not sue him out of the wazoo? No, they're going to be like, yeah, sick the suits on him. They're not even going to talk. They don't give a fuck what the community team thinks. They don't give a fuck what the developers think or the game designers. They have a mandate to protect the IP, and they're going to go after them with the full force of a $4 billion dollar market cap company with no holds barred, and they will bury you, right? So all these people saying like, oh yeah, well, maybe if they like your work, like, because fucking Gav Thorpe liked your video and shared it on Instagram, they won't go after you. It's like, no, like, the lawyers don't give a fuck what the Games Workshop like developers think or the community team thinks. They're gonna do what their job is, which is to protect the IP. So
the other thing too is, like you said, protecting the IP. We're talking about a company that creates physical models that can be easily 3D printed. And in the past, we've talked about like, what if they sold 3D printing files instead of models anymore? That could be a reality in the future. That really could. At the end of the day, all GW really has is like a story, their concept of what things look like, and that's really it. Like, if you really bare bones it, like, and we look at how technology is changing, that's the most important part of their company right now, is their artistic property, like, and like the lore they've created for all these characters. Now, yes, this is like super shitty that they're going after these companies, but they understand that the value of their company is not like the models themselves. Yeah, they'll stick lawyers at 3D printers, whatever have you. They have done it for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
But you're looking at going into the future, they're licensing their product everywhere. Mobile games, computer games, regular games, VR shit, like movies, TV shows, like stuff like that. They understand that that's more profitable to them right now than models. And they're preemptively starting to do things to lock in what they can protect that's the most valuable to them. And I understand as a company, like, I think the problem is we look at Games Workshop as being like, oh my God, your neighborhood Games Workshop store. Like, they're our buddies. And like, half our friends probably worked at a Games Workshop store. And the fact that like the community is so friendly and supportive to one another, but the company itself is a company. It has stocks. It has investors. People want to buy like licensing from them. Those are other companies who have investors in stocks. Like, these people don't care about like fan-made stuff. Like, I mean, you can even look at how GW does their stuff. They have a social media presence, but it's pretty bullshit still. And it's gotten better from like 4 years ago. But still, like, the fact that they made a meme about the Shovel Creek guy, like, it took them like weeks to figure that out. It's like, that's been like a meme for like forever. It's like, they're so like out of touch with like their gaming community, I feel, that they're like, when they do catch up, it's like old news, and we're kind of like, yeah, we kind of think you should have done that already. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So one thing I just want to read it to you. So let me see here. So this is something that Games Workshop you always see in their reports, and it's basically like, let me see here if I can find it. So here's what it says. So if you go to any sort of the Games Workshop investor relations, so Games Workshop PLC, this is the one of their core lines that they always talk about. They say Games Workshop is the largest and most successful hobby miniatures company in the world.
Yeah.
I will bet you in 2 years, 3 years, it will be like Games Workshop is a multimedia company with assets in miniature modeling, board games, TV shows, video games, movie properties, merchandising, right? They are just so like when you think of Disney, what started Disney? Animation. They were a cartoon company, right? But no one would say Disney is an animation company today, right? Disney is a theme parks, it's merchandise, it's video games, it's everything that is in Disney. Like they own, Lucasfilm, they own movie studios. Like Disney is like, now I'm not saying Games Workshop is equivalent to Disney in size, but they started as one thing. And then as the company got bigger, they diversified. And now no one would say Games Workshop is a cartoon company, right? Yeah. Games Workshop is reaching that point where they're no longer going to be known as a miniature hobby company. The miniature aspect is only going to be some small, like not small part. It'll still probably be a major part, but they're going to have movies, multimedia, merchandising, licensing. They already have all that stuff. It's just not as big now, but as they start to grow it, they're going to have, man, I wouldn't be surprised if we go to a Games Workshop theme park at one point, right? Games Workshop's land, right? They have Lego. If they have Legoland, why can't they have, well, they have Warhammer World, I guess, right? But my point is, Games Workshop is in 5 to 10 years is no longer going to be, like, they're not going to start their investor statements that we're a miniature company that makes world-class miniatures. They're going to be like, we are a faceted games company that does movies, miniatures, blah 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 blah, right? That's literally the future of Games Workshop, and that's great, right? But this is kind of part of that growing process and that growing pain. So
it's like a band that sells out and you're like, God damn, I saw one, they played for 50 people at this fucking basement show and now they're sold out. Oh, I fucking hate, like GW. I think about that a lot, where I'm like, it was like super subculture and no one really thought the Warhammer IP was anything to like look at, and nowadays it's become quite a juggernaut now in the progress. And then we were all on the ground floor and we're like, what the hell's going on with our game? And then we all get all gatekeepery on, and we troll people on Reddit.
I know it's becoming mainstream because literally like there's like Twitch streamers I follow that play Warhammer that like are like not from Warhammer. They're like picking up Warhammer. Obviously, like people like Henry Cavill. Like these are all adding to it. I literally saw PC Gamer, which is not a modeling website. They were running news articles on Games Workshop. Kotaku, all the kind of normal gaming websites are now running. Whenever there's a Games Workshop something happening, like literally, PC Gamer did a Age of Sigmar Dominion review on their website. PC Gamer. So like they're getting into this. I think it was PC Gamer is one of those sites. Like, but like my point is like they're becoming mainstream, very mainstream, and soon like they're gonna be doing everything, right? Like Games Workshop Cheerios and Wheaties and like all sorts of other stuff. So
you mean they're probably gonna make Cornos finally?
Cornos, can't wait.
Finally,
with
come on, we get on your meme game. Come on, that's like a decade old.
I know.
Should have had that done like years ago.
All right, let's talk Orcs and Kill Team because those are kind of combined.
Dude, let's talk Kill Team because that's a whole nother game system. Oh, cornflake! Right. Thank you.
Talk to me about Kill Team. What's got you excited about it?
Like you wanted alternating activations.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening. For me, I didn't want to get into Kill Team because I was getting really into Necromunda at the time, and I didn't want another miniature skirmishing game. And not to mention, I felt like Kill Team was fun, but you could game the system super easily. And since it wasn't like a super like important game to GW, they didn't like step on like a lot of like the power builds you could do in Kill Team. Or like snuff out some of the weird mechanics in Kill Team as quickly, which was a bit frustrating when you started playing Kill Team and people were just like, they even said it in like one of the articles this week was like, can't run like a 15 plasma gun guardsman Kill Team. I'm like, yeah, you can't anymore. Thank you. It looks like it's a much more like trooper based, like specialist based. I like that idea a lot. The way they're going to be using action points and how like depending on like what race you are, you might get like more action points and stuff. I like that that idea a lot as well. I'm curious to see how they're going to have like their level up system or like how they're going to do campaigns. I'm fascinated to see where they're going to go with it. I just hope they don't do that. Well, they're probably going to do the same tiered system that they did with the original Kill Team, where it was like, this is where like the base troopers are fighting it out in the basement of like a refinery or something. And then like after they're like, oh, then we're gonna bring in like Kill Team Elite and Kill Team Commander and Kill Team Dreadnoughts. Yeah. Like they're gonna probably do that, but right now it seems like they're trying to keep things pretty baseline.
Right.
And I'm really keeping my fingers crossed they keep it that way. That's much more like, I don't know, like rank and file. Like you really are supposed to like look at like the standard models you're given, and that's really what I'm hoping they keep to. But GW likes to expand rules to make you buy more models, so I don't see it happening. But
Yeah, I'm interested. I honestly, I'll take a look at it. I mean, the models for the box set look really cool. The Death Corps of Krieg, I hope they get a full release. The Commandos are awesome. The Commandos, to be honest, are a little bit too like on the nose, like commando like memes, like the guy with the toque. Come on, guys. Like they're just a little bit too like copying like tropes, I guess. They just don't look. So I'm not a huge fan of them. Like the models are cool and they're fun, but like they feel kind of a little bit too on the nose. The orc ones. Obviously I like the Krieg models. I hope there's a more of a I hope there's like if there is like a full different kit where it's like more regular looking dudes, because the one thing I don't like with the Kill Team set is like they're all very. They don't look like sometimes I just want guardsmen holding guns and running and shooting guns. I don't want like every guardsman doing his own special snowflake activity with his own special snowflake bits. I just want guardsmen holding guns so that I can have 1,000 of them lined up in shooting guns. Like I don't want something weird like, oh, everyone's doing some unique thing because every model has to be this unique snowflake. Like I just want guardsmen with guns.
One guy reading his book.
Yeah. So I hope if there is like a full release for the Krieg that they do get that, and I'll definitely give the game a shot. Hopefully the rules release for free or at least for at least like separately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to get excited for it. I think I'd have to probably find like an army that I wanted to paint for Kill Team, and then maybe paint like a force for it. So.
Yeah, one thing I'm excited about these are a multi-part kit. They're not going to be like not those like pseudo push fit kits that's like they have pre-poses and you kind of like slot like an arm onto like a torso leg combo.
Yeah.
It looks like they're gonna be like pretty customizable already. Even just by like the multiple Kill Team previews, they've shown Krieg models and Orc models in different poses with like the same like parts but like different. So you're probably gonna get a bunch of rank and file dudes. I mean like it seems like the Krieg are probably going to become like the next like guard regiment they're going to start pushing for. Cadian's got their new upgrade sprue in their box set, and I'm not sure if they're going to sell it separately. Oh yeah, Kill Team.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
That's actually really cool. It has like a whole different measurement system. You
have to actually buy those. I don't think it's cool.
That?
I don't think it's cool. Like I don't know what problem they were trying to solve. What was wrong with inches? Like is it so difficult to just move inches?
So you could sell an easy measuring piece that would.
I don't want to have to look at a fucking legend chart just every time I want to move and then do math, because it's like, oh, I'm 2 triangles and a square. Okay, so it's like doing algebra. It's like, it's like sub the 3 for the triangle and the 2 for the square and like multiply and then but before you add, like it's like ridiculous.
Yeah. You know what though? I'll have to wait until they come out with the full rules to really think about that for myself. Just because like they said like, oh, like las guns have like unlimited range in this set, which means like our pistol's gonna have the same kind of treatment. Is this gonna be a system where you don't have to bring a tape measure to play? That would be fascinating.
I mean, at that point they might as well just go full Warcry and just have grids. I don't understand. They should just release like a Is it Warcry? No, Underworld. Sorry, Underworld has a grid.
Yeah. I just want to see what they're gonna do with it. I think it's just like with GW, it's like I am psyched when they make a new game. I'll take a look at it. If it doesn't interest me, then I just move on. But like, I'm happy that they're still trying to reinvent their games. They're not sticking with like a boring formula that just seems to work. Like even when Necromunda came out, they like kind of like spruce up the rules, and then they kept like changing things, which I appreciate. Um, you
Well,
know,
yeah, and that's just like I guess I just don't understand all like where all these games fit. Like Necromunda is a great example. Like it's a like I don't know. Couldn't they just use Necromunda rules for Kill Team? Like like
you know,
just done
I'd
like
like to
like a not called it Necromunda, but called it like
Shadow War
Armageddon.
Armageddon.
Yeah, Kill Team Armageddon, and
Dude,
it's just like
Shadow War
Necromunda, but
Armageddon.
instead of Necromunda gangs, you have like all the races from 40k.
Yeah. Shadow War Armageddon was that. It was Necromunda with every 40k faction. And then they just like bossed it out. I'm like, what the fuck?
I
Why
know.
would you do that?
I just feel like in the last
And then they Kill Team.
I feel like in the last 6 years they've gone through so many iterations of like Shadow War, Kill Team, Necromunda. Kill Team's gone through multiple versions. Like they just don't know what they want to do with these games. It's like they're just trying things to see if they stick.
Well, it's like I said before, like with Kill Team, like they wanted to make it sound like Trooper versus Trooper. Then they were like, but this is a great way for people to get into like 40k. And they're like, well, if they're only buying tactical squads and guardsmen, like how are we gonna get them into like the actual 40k game? Oh, we'll say like they can run like 2 Terminators in their Kill Team or something, or they can make a Kill Team with 4 Terminators. And all of a sudden, like, oh, like okay, now they have to buy and build more models. But then like once they get like 3 Kill Teams worth of models in, they'll be like, why don't I just play 40k? And then they just like go all in, you know? It's a system that makes sense, but it's frustrating when you look at it from like just like a game perspective. From a business, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I do have to say though, the train in the Kill Team box looks amazing, and I'm almost tempted to buy it just for the train, the orc train.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope they release that separate.
They probably will. Yeah.
All right. I guess final topic for the day. You know, we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I think it's pretty obvious, probably from both of our like play patterns, that neither of us are super invested in competitive play this year. I know I'm kind of going into Charity Hammer in a few weeks here with very little practice. So what's kind of your mindset these days, David? Because I know we've had some discussions about it offline as far as like what we want to do with everything, and yeah, I guess where you are right now, because I definitely am not as invested in competitive play right now, especially given the state of the game. I kind of feel like with 9th edition being such a shit show as far as like codex releases, balance issues, these kinds of things, like I'm just not that invested in like tournaments. I'm obviously going to be going to LVO. I'll play some local tournaments, but I'm not planning to travel outside of LVO this year. And obviously Charity Hammer is just a few hours away, but I was thinking of maybe trying to get some of the GW events, maybe going to some of the older events like down in California. But at this point, I think I've just kind of written off this year, and I'm hoping maybe next year is to take another crack at it. But where's your headspace at, especially now that things are starting to open up?
This is something I've been wrestling with quite a bit, is like how much are 40k events going to dictate my life? Prior to COVID, I never even would have gave it a thought. This is why I have this weird thing about COVID where I'm almost like thankful it happened, because it kind of like put my life in check and made me think about like, what do I want to do with my life, like in general? Like the idea of like, I think complacency is a poison, and I think a lot of people need to like change up their lives like quite a bit to like, I don't know, like make life more fulfilling, make it more interesting, create growth itself. And I found myself being like, oh yeah, like I build models because of tournaments that are happening, and like that's how I get my armies like moving forward. But that's like I created this like cycle of like I'm gonna build models to go to this tournament, to then build models, go to another tournament, build models, and so on, so on, so on. And I thought to myself, I'm taking all this money, all this vacation time to play Warhammer, and I didn't really think about it much until one day I was just like, COVID happened, you know, and I can't go to tournaments. I can't play 40k. I can't fly on a plane anywhere. Like I have to find things to do. And what I ended up doing was being like, I'm gonna take a road trip to the mountains, like 6 hours away, and go hiking all weekend. Or like I'd be with my buddy and we'd be like, hey, let's drive. Like my buddy Garner and I, like on Labor Day weekend during COVID, we drove to Maine together and we went to Acadia National Park. And we hiked all weekend, and then we played Titanicus on top of the mountain, which was hilarious. But like, I found out that my investment of time when I wasn't playing Warhammer felt more fulfilling. that I thought to myself, here's a weekend where I drove 11 hours and played Titanicus on a mountain and went swimming in a lake filled with leeches and saw the ocean, ate lobsters out of the ocean, stuff like cool shit. Awesome. And I compare that to like, I'm going to go to an event, which is a convention center, where I hide in a windowless building and play against the same people I see every month. They're my friends and I love seeing them. I love hanging out and getting dinner with them and stuff. But it's like the fulfillment level is not as high as like if I were to like go travel somewhere like, to go like climb a mountain or something, or go hiking, or
Yeah.
go to a city that I've never been to before and eat the entire city alive and all the food that's within it. Like, there's so much more I could be doing with my time. And now that COVID's about to lift, I've been thinking a lot about competitive 40K. I love it to death. Like, I really enjoyed the whole event. I love going to I love seeing all my friends. I love like meeting people. I love like having the motivation from those events to paint more things than I usually do. But at the same time, it's like I kind of want to pump the brakes on it a bit. Like, I'm still gonna go to events. Like, I'm gonna go to like Nova and Adepticon and TBOS GT, and like I want to hop up to Canada a bunch to hang out with my buddies and go to like Barrie and go to like Scary's event. Like those are great events and I love them to death. And I wouldn't miss them out. I wouldn't miss out on them. But I'm probably not gonna go to the ones that I was kind of like on the fence about, or like smaller events that like are like 50-person events that like take 2 days. Like, I'm just not gonna do those anymore.
Yeah, I think that's natural. I think there's always like a kind of life cycle. I know for me, like I just kind of look at my priorities right now in my life, and also the level of competition and the level of dedication needed to kind of compete at that level right now, whether it's with painting models or just playing lots, getting lots of reps in. Sure. And I don't know if I have that in me right now. Now, obviously, I'm going to Charity Hammer in a few weeks, so I'm going to see everyone. And obviously, LVO is always like a great reunion of everyone. And so maybe going there is going to get me super, hyped up and, kind of recharge my batteries a little bit. But like, I thought about going to some of the Games Workshop events this year. I thought about maybe doing a bit more traveling towards the second half of the year once the borders open, so that I could go to more competitive events. And I just realized, what's the point? My ITC season is basically shot because I'm not going to play in an event till like October. And also just like I just don't have, I don't have it in me right now to kind of meta chase or to build to just keep up with what's going on. Like obviously I follow what's going on, and I like to complain about it a lot, but I don't know if I want to spend my money this year given the season is so fucked given COVID. So like the codexes are all out of whack, the release schedule's out of whack. It just feels like Games Workshop needs to spend like 6 months just getting the game back to a place where it's like feels like it's worth playing at a high level, and not if you're not meta chasing, right? Where like the armies feel like you can go to an event and there's like 6 or 7 different armies that could reasonably win, whereas right now it's like admech. Last month it was Drukhari, maybe next month it'll be orcs, etc. So I'm just not interested in like going through that like pain for no particular reason and spending that money. And I'd much rather kind of focus on kind of myself and doing things at home and stuff like that. So for me, like definitely taking a step back in that sense. Now we'll see where I feel after Charity Hammer, after LVO. I know obviously WTC is still on my mind for next year, but like again, thinking about like, we're still doing practice stuff for the WTC right now, all the people that are like trying to get on the team. And I just don't have the interest right now. That could change in 6 months, but the game just feels very pointless in a lot of ways. And like, and obviously we're doing a league right now, local league, and that's been fun, but I don't have that like same level of like excitement. Even just painting has been hard for me because I've been so busy. So I don't really know what the future will hold. I mean, I'm not like quitting the hobby or getting out of the hobby or anything like that, but I definitely feel like I want to have a bit more of a holistic approach moving forward, and then reassess it as the game gets in a better state. Maybe by this time next year, the game's like, we got 3 or 4, so we got like 3/4 of codexes out, the chapter proofs are flowing, the FAQs are flowing, the balance is a lot better, and there's lots more events, and it just feels like a lot more worth it. But I guess just right now it's like, I don't know, the caliber of the players is so high now too, especially with all these like coaches, and like there's so much it's so much the floor is so much higher than it was 2 years ago, right? Which isn't a bad thing. I think that's great for the game.
I love that.
I think that's awesome, right? Because it means like you go into an event and basically anyone there, most people know what they're doing. It's not like half the players are seals that you're just going to club. So I like the fact that the game is harder, but it also means that if you want to compete at a high level, which is what I like to do, I don't like to do anything where I'm like mediocre at it. So like if I'm going to play 40K competitively at a high level, I want to compete at a high level. I don't want to be like, I'm not happy to go to events and be like 3-3 or 2-3. I want to go, 5-1 or win the event. Like that's my standard now, right? Especially for me. So for me to do that is it's going to take a lot to get back into it, and I think it's going to take me a little while to kind of get my gears going and stuff. So I feel you, and yeah, I've been focused on my personal life and just trying to. I think 1 year off of 40K has really shown me that like how much I missed out in 2019 when I was doing like all my events every weekend. Now that I'm like having like great weekends with my friends, going out, and I'm not like always away at an event, I'm like, oh man, I really, really like that. Like I really like not like being home and like hanging out with my friends and family versus, and don't get me wrong, I still love going to those events, but I think before I didn't really realize what I was missing, and now I'm seeing what I'm missing, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to miss that anymore.
Dude, that's the same happened to me. I had the opportunity to go to the Atlantic City Open, and it was the weekend before I was going to leave to go to Utah, to like move out here. And I was like, okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to drive to the Atlantic City Open. You're going to play 40K for like 3 days, and then you're going to drive to Utah. And I'm just like, okay, that means I have to leave like Thursday or Wednesday, and I have to leave there like Monday morning, and I have to like, the logistics were all over the place. But I was like getting hungry to play 40K, and then I paused myself, and I was like, wait, or I could stay here in Buffalo for like 4 days and really catch up with my friends and like really spend time with people who matter to me. And honestly, like I was so thankful that I did that, because I rekindled a lot with somebody that meant a lot to me. And it was like a really amazing 4 or 5 days that I spent with that person, then going to the Atlantic City Open. Like, like really, like it was worth it to me.
You would have won anyways.
What's that?
You would have probably done well anyways. You would have just gone and lost a bunch of games and been frustrated.
Well, I don't really care about winning. You know me. Yeah. But I gotta say though, Jim, is like this past year has been really healthy for you. Like you and I have been like talking on Skype during the whole pandemic, and like you were mentioning that like you bike more, like your diet's better, like a lot of the things that you had vice wise when you went to events, like you didn't really tap into them as much. It was good for you. Like like.
It's better in some ways and worse in some ways, man. Trust me. Like I'm just doing a lot of It's not all good. But what I will say is my mental health is a lot better, and I'm a lot happier, and I feel physically a lot better because I'm not traveling so much.
Yeah,
so dude, I was unhealthy in like that year. Like I was eating awful, drinking a lot. I was like the heaviest I'd been in a long time. By the end of the season, I think I was like over 200 pounds. Now I'm down to like 170s. So. Yeah.
Dude, but that's the thing though, is like the weight of the world was on your shoulders near the end of that ITC season, because you had a lot riding on you. You had like best paint. People were thought you were gonna get for like best overall, like completely, like you're gonna top out on both things, like best like ITC completely and best painting.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
Dude, come on. You had a lot on your plate, and it's like, dude, it's like that kind of pressure is like, it's unfair, because it's like so many stupid internet trolls are just like on your shit, and it's like it just stresses you out. And it's like, what's the reward? Like $2,000 American and a trophy and bragging rights and like being on a podcast tour. Like is it really worth all of that for all of that like negativity and like pressure?
Yeah, like 40K will always be there, right? Like I can go enjoy my life, and at some point I'll be able to come back to it, and I'm not I don't feel like I'm gonna miss anything. People come and go, and that's kind of part of the lifestyle of the hobby. But I'll always love painting, and I'll always love playing. And that'll always be there for me when I'm ready to kind of get back into it. So
yeah, man.
All right, David, that's the show. Thanks everyone for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys are enjoying the content, please make sure to like and subscribe and comment and follow on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. Really appreciate it. Also, you can just make sure to check out the show on podcast form. Just search the Best Overall Show on all your favorite podcasting apps. My name is Jim.
Dave. Hey,
And
what's
that's
up?
David. This has been the Best Overall Show. We'll talk to you guys later.
Hey guys, take care.